Things that only were possible to the few are now going to be possible to everyone. So I have 2 young daughters, and their favorite experience is the blue. So for the first time, they can actually go underwater, face the whale. They can go to top of Mount Everest, and they can also visit the red planet Mars. So things that only were available to Jacques Cousteau or Neil Armstrong is now available to everyone, and that's very, very powerful. So in order to talk to you a little bit about what makes this possible, I thought Dan could talk a little bit about where we are and what is the reception from users and also from our creator.
Thanks. So it was Lawnmower Man for me, but so you know, I think I talked a little bit earlier. Some of you were in the other earlier panel, just why we built the Vive and what it was so important to us and why we started where we did, and really came down to, I'll just quickly repeat, it was about putting the person at the center of the content, having it all around them, having that experience. And so from the way we approached it with Valve was, we gave all the developer community 2 controllers, 2 base stations for 360-degree tracking in the headset. And we've been doing that for over 2 years. And how that's been received was basically a known ecosystem of what we were going to do at launch and what they could build for as content creators. And so that's resulted in over 600 titles on Steam, and we're really proud of that. And so we continue to get a lot of positive reinforcement from the developer community, and that's really, going well with consumers. We don't talk publicly about how things are going from a sales perspective, but it's going really well. We're really pleased with it, and the reception from consumers is overwhelmingly positive as well. So.
Did I roll the video?
Sure.
Oh, this is so cool!
So.
This is what it looks in our living room every weekend now.
So that was actually a mixed reality video that was created by the Valve team, and if you haven't gone over to Stage 4 to see the mixed reality setup that we have over there, you should definitely go over and try it and observe other people, because one of the things that's great about Colin and Northway and Sarah and the Northway Games team and the Radial Games team, they actually came up with this whole solution of putting a 3rd controller tracked on a physical camera so that you could actually capture your physical space, and overlay it onto your virtual space. And that's how we get to actually show videos like this, where you're showing in your virtual world. And for content creators and so many people where it's really hard because we have such an experiential product, how to tell people what they're experiencing if they don't have an opportunity to put that headset on, this is a great way to give a glimpse into that world. And it's a great way for us to kind of solve that one-to-many scenario. So if you haven't tried it, if you haven't tried the mixed reality or seen what the setup looks like, please come over to Stage 4 and check that out. So,
should I do it? Yeah. Yeah, I think when you think about virtual reality, the way I think about it is that they're like a pyramid. On the bottom end, you have mobile. So I think we all see it in Google Cardboard, and it's great for cinematic, seeing 360 video, looking around. The next level up is light-powered computing devices. So think about your game console, for example. So you can actually do a little bit more. You have some hand controls, you can interact. And then you have the more high-end solutions, which needs a high-performance PC. And then you have room scale, which means that you can move around in the room in that world. So in order to do that, you need a PC, you need a high-performance headset, you have a tracking system. And what's super magical about this is that when you have your visual system totally immersed, when your auditory system is immersed, and when you have hand controllers, so think of it that you're on top of Mount Everest. You see the landscape, it's magical, it's very steep down. You hear the wind, you have the ice hacks in your hands, you throw it into the ice, you feel the haptic feedback, the polar bear is roaring and it's coming closer, your lizard brain takes over, and you don't know that you're in your living room. You forgot that. So you're actually there. Your brain thinks you're there, and that's truly, truly magical. So I would argue that we are in the dawn of a new computing platform. And I think we all remember the rise of the PC, we've seen the rise of the web, we've seen the rise of mobile phones, and we're in the early stages of virtual reality. In each of these computing platforms, it all started with games and entertainment, early adopters being enthusiasts. But over time, it wasn't necessarily games that made the PC big or the web big. Maybe you remember your first PowerPoint presentation, or maybe you remember YouTube. And on mobile, it's probably going to be your social media, or maybe even photos, or things like your email. So for virtual reality today, we have seen huge traction for gaming and entertainment. However, it's probably not just going to be a gaming platform. It's going to be these other categories of content that's going to make virtual reality big. We don't know what they are, but we have some ideas, and we want to invite you to basically make those experiences possible. So the way we're thinking about it is that we want to look at what is it that you, the creator community and developer, what are the experiences we can create? So we'll be looking at exploring new worlds, creating impossible things, connecting with friends and being social, but also experience storytelling in a completely new way. And also there's an opportunity for brands and commerce down the line. So let me talk a little bit about this. The one I'm most excited about, I have two young daughters, Alexandra and Athena. They are 6 and 11. So education is very, very important for me. And I think we all, had maybe not the best experiences in school. Maybe it wasn't that exciting always. But with virtual reality, it's not just going to be much more immersive and exciting, because it's going to be more effective. So I think we all remember that reading a book is good. A picture says 1,000 words. If you see this video, it's going to be much more informative. Kids today have these iPad applications which are interactive. But tomorrow, what's going to happen is that my girls are going to go into Jurassic Park, the real Jurassic Park, and they're going to look at the Stegosaurus. Their teachers and the students are going to be with them. They're going to hear the roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the background, and then there's going to be a stampede. The teacher is going to talk to them about what's happening, and they're never going to forget it in their entire life. The most immersive, effective medium ever. The other thing which is interesting, it's not just a visual medium, you can interact. So one of the most popular experiences is an application called Fantastic Contraption. You can build these fantastic contraptions. So it's not that you're visual, you can also interact with the world. Let's have a quick look. So it's really exciting because now you're not just passive, but you're very active, which means also that your muscle memory will be enforced, so you will never forget these things. So creativity is the area where I see, pretty much the biggest potential, because you can create anything these days. And the most popular app among my daughters, but also probably among most users, is Tiltbrush from Google. So you basically have a simple paint application, but you paint in 3D, and you can walk around. But we're seeing so much creativity out there, and I wanted to share some ideas. Since we're in Hollywood, I do think that it's going to change filmmaking in a very different way. And one of my favorite applications is Mindshow. So let's have a look at that. It's coming later this fall.
Welcome to Mindshow, an app that lets you...
And I can tell you, when you're standing on that airplane wing looking down, you're not going to jump. You're not going to jump. I would dare you. You're not going to jump. So, but creativity is not just painting and doing animation. There's so many dimensions to it. So, Soundstage, a small indie developer, they came up with this way to create music. So, as a parent, you don't necessarily want to have a drum set, in the living room or in the bottom of your house. So this is a completely new way to do music, and there's so much creativity here. Let's have a quick look. Exciting, right? So this is truly amazing. But what's really amazing about this medium is that once you created things, what you want to do is that you want to share it. You want to share it, you want to connect with your friends, but you also want to create things with your friends. So social is going to be massive when it comes to virtual reality. Many people think it's a very solitary experience, but actually it's not. It's going to be a very social experience. And today we see a lot of these applications where you can meet people in fantastic worlds and play sports or have some fun interaction. But I do think as time goes by, social is going to be an interactive layer across all experiences, both cinematic and animated experiences. And actually, Dan, I think you had some social experiences. Maybe you can tell your little story.
I think, too, one of the things that's really important to understand, too, is a lot of people, it's not always about volume of content and, what the title is or something like that. Some of the most immersive things that we've seen and watched other people experience have kind of been hidden in the mundane. So just for an example, ping pong, right? Paddle Up. This game came out and, one of the guys I work with, he's a ping pong fanatic, and he came in to tell me about his most immersive experience he's ever had in his life after working on this for a couple of years. And he said, I was playing Paddle Up, and I decided to play with somebody else, and I'm looking to start the game on my controller, and this voice from across the room just says, "Oh, it's the button on your left hand." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he hits the button. And then the guy goes, on the other side, he goes, "Yeah, I made the same mistake, the first time I tried it." And he just stares and he goes, "You can hear me?" He goes, "Yes, I can hear you." He goes, "Holy shit," So it's just like right in that moment. And then he went on for the next, I think, an hour just playing with other people and playing ping pong. And he came out of it and was like, "That was the best thing ever." And I was like, "Okay, great, that's awesome, ping pong. I'll do it." So it just, things that we need to learn from is, I guess the message there is that don't be afraid to do the most simple things, and those social experiences can actually make it so much more magical. And it's really important that we stay focused on bringing those experiences, even if you've already built an experience or built a game, and you want to build social into it and continue iterating on your experience. I think it's a really important path to continue to follow. So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I think when we're here in Hollywood, it's clearly, and I think there's been a lot of discussion around cinematic virtual reality or 360 video, which are great experiences. They're linear, but they put you sort of in the scene. Virtual reality has another dimension. Suddenly, all of us are going to have an IMAX theater at home. And I think there's something there thinking about how can you reach that audience in virtual reality. The other thing is that it's not just going to be cinematic storytelling, it's going to be animated storytelling as well. And I just want to share one beautiful, maybe because I'm a father and have lots of daughters, but Google Spotlight Stories came out with a story called Pearl. And they're basically using animation, and it's also 360, but it's described and sort of the story is told in a very nice way. So let's have a quick look on this. What's fascinating is that we actually today we're announcing the first nominees of our Viveport Developer Awards, where users basically vote with their hands and where there are downloads and playtimes. So both this Pearl as well as Soundstage are being sort of nominated now because of user interaction. So this is what users are telling us that they love. I love big IP titles. I love Star Wars. And I was very happy when the Trials of Tatooine was launched earlier this year. But what's really interesting with these kind of first experiences is that you're not watching a movie anymore. You're in the movie. You are the main character. You're the one deciding the fate of the outcome. You're the one wielding the lightsaber. So there's a completely new way of storytelling that's opening up with virtual reality, which I think is very, very, very powerful. But there are a lot of things that's going to change. And one of the things that we're seeing, which is a great thing for us, because the big problem with virtual reality is a marketing problem. You have to try it. You have to test it. You have to take the red pill and walk down the rabbit hole, because otherwise you don't going to get it. You cannot explain the matrix. You have to live there. So what's happening is that more and more companies are looking at how to use virtual reality for internal training, design, and a couple of things. There's one example, maybe Dan, you can tell us about what are companies like BMW doing?
So some of the professional services, and this is one of the reasons we actually built the Vive BE version, was to support companies better. Companies like BMW are looking at it multiple ways. One is to make design decisions. You know, if they can, a company like that can avoid making mock-ups. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent every year on one model, right? And if a company like that can actually iterate on all their designs, and if Hollywood can actually iterate on their designs of set designs and things like that, without actually building them all at first and looking at them, this is a way to actually be really efficient. It's also looking at it from a collaboration standpoint and taking multiple designers from around the world that are contributing on a project, putting them in the same virtual space and actually making design decisions together. So I know for a fact, you know, that last time I was at BMW, they were like, hey, I need a headset that distributes heat better because our head designer spent 3 hours in the headset reviewing the last design. I was like, wow, okay, great. Good feedback. But then they're also looking at it from a standpoint of, okay, now how do I'm going to use it internally for engineering and design and collaboration, but then I'm going to use it for now showing customers. And my showroom experience will have VR in it, and customers will be able to actually customize their products and bring buyer's remorse to zero, you know, because you got to see everything about it before you actually chose to make a purchase decision.
And drive it. You can drive it, which is very nice. So I do think that's a huge opportunity for all of you who are doing, you know, simple marketing stunts today. You can have much more immersive things for your customers and your audience. We're also bringing this to VR arcades and cafes. So if you turn up the sound a little bit, we can have a quick look at this little video. So one of the things with Vive is, due to our heritage, we have unique access to the Chinese market. And in China, what's happening there is pretty much what happened, you know, for those of you as old as me, you remember the LAN cafes when people didn't have broadband at home and computers, they were going to cafes and getting connected. That is pretty much happening in China and Asia now, which means that there's a completely new distribution window for immersive content growing up. And so what we're doing is that we're trying to help developers and creators from the Western world get into China. But I do think that in every cinema, you will have these immersive experience, every bowling hall, everything we can think about. We're still seeing them even in shopping malls these days. So if you have some ideas on how to use sort of VR arcades or public, do come and talk to us. The perhaps most powerful thing that I haven't talked about with virtual reality is the link between touch and ownership. And let me explain. There was a study in the Consumer Journal of Research that basically said that if you go into a store and you pick up an item in that store, you put it back, you're now much more likely to pay more money for that object than if you didn't touch it. The study said, even more interestingly, is that if you just imagined that you touched it, you didn't, but you just imagined that you hold it in your hand and put it back, you're now also much more likely to pay money for it. So there's a fantastic opportunity for brands to immerse their audience, have the ultimate brand experience, which is going to be the most memorable, and also something that will build a relationship with the brand in new ways. And I'm from Sweden, and I just want to tell this story because I'm not proud of taking my kids to like a hamburger joint. But sometimes as a parent you do it because you're like desperate. However, McDonald's did something funny, you know, this Happy Meal pack. So they made the Happy Meal so it turned into a cardboard so that the kids could, you know, watch immersive, simple 360 content. And suddenly, they brought McDonald's into my house, into my living room, which is very clever. And of course, they're doing great entertainment for the kids. So it's a very, very good idea. And I was thinking, as an adult, I was kind of, you know, respect. It's a good idea. But I would never fall for it. And then as it turned out, anyone maybe been to South by Southwest? So they did a little stunt where you could do tilt brush. You could go in and create something, and you can paint, and then you could print it out. And then all the adults got these little artist things that they brought home and put it in frames in the living rooms. Very, very clever. So I do think that there are a lot of ways where brands can interact and build a relationship with their audience for various purposes. So in closing, what I want to you to take just a minute to think about. Think about virtual reality as a place where you can be anyone. You can go anywhere, and you can do anything. You can save the world, you can live out your darkest fantasies, anything is possible. It doesn't matter if you're a user or you're a creator. And the way we want to work with you is that we're doing a couple of things. One of the things we're announcing today is that we are opening up ViveX Round 2. So ViveX is a $100 million fund, an accelerator that we have in 4 places around the world. We're helping startups realize those ideas that you might have, making sure that you get some money, you're getting some expertise, and some access to software and tech. Primarily content and services, but we're also doing some things in hardware. Do you want to make a comment on?
Oh, just for the accessories piece?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to, we didn't put it on the slide, but you know, one of the things that, you know, if you haven't noticed or didn't see the announcement from Valve, but you know, we are also opening up the license for all of the, if you want to create your own tracked accessories or peripherals or any object that you could think of that you want to track inside of the Steam VR tracking. And so, lightsaber.
Right,
yeah, that's right. You know, a paintbrush, a chair. So many different things that you could think of, and so many people in this room are both thinking about creating content and also creating other things, you know, and objects that you can use in your virtual space. And if you go to Steam, you can sign up for the open license tracking to learn how to actually track objects like our controllers and other input items. And you can actually learn how to do what we do, and then that helps grow our ecosystem. And so we're very encouraging of the group to do that.
Yep, great. So check it out. And then finally, if you have a piece of applications, come to Viveport. We'll distribute it around the world. And if you have something good, you want to win $500,000, do publish on Viveport. And then, finally, hopefully you'll take the red pill, follow us down the rabbit hole, and we see you on the other side of reality. Thank you very much.